got to hit record, but you didn't know me like that. But it's time to start the show.
All right.
Man, you all are tuned in. You know you are tuned in. What? Yeah. It's about that time. I don't know if you have been waiting patiently or not, but it's really time to get this show going. So, are you ready? I think you said yes. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the LaDonna Raeh Show. I'm your host, LaDonna Raeh, and you are rocking with the best on the LaDonna Raeh Show. Yes, we have a channel on YouTube. We got a few subscribers here and there. People are making comments and sharing, and I'm getting inbox messages for what people want to hear about. But check this out. The LaDonna Raeh Show talks to those content creators from all over the world, which can also include movers and shakers. And when it's time for a mover and shaker, you got to kind of move over. But this is a serious topic. I hope that I can contain myself because I just have that personality where I kind of make light of just about everything except my action. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. But today's special guest is going to talk to us about many things that you may not have known or realized or even thought was actually true. The thing is, society may say things to you to make you feel a certain kind of way, and then you'll be questioning yourself. You don't have to do that anymore because we have a special guest. But before we get to her, I want you to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and share. Don't forget. But for now, I want you to give it up for our special guest. Are you not yet? Oh my God. Are you serious? You guys aren't paying attention. I'm asking you to follow instructions, okay? Give it up for our special guest, Miss Bianca Dickerson-Williams. You can clap now. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Come on, Bianca. Come on in here. Don't be afraid. There she is. Hi.
Hi, LaDonna. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I couldn't pass this up. This is so amazing to have you on the show, Bianca, and to be able to talk about some things that our community needs to open up about. We kind of feel like these things are going on, but we don't necessarily have the validation because they want to keep us hushed and focused on the snatch and grabs or the smash and grabs. That's what they're called.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us who you are. I mean, you're special to me, but tell them.
Sure. So thank you for the introduction, LaDonna. I'm here today to talk about the Black maternal health crisis that is happening in the United States as well as other countries. But most people are surprised to hear that the US has the highest maternal mortality rate amongst developed countries. And what that basically means in English is that we have more women dying during the birthing process or sustaining catastrophic injuries, as I did, after their child is born or during the birthing process. And the Center for Disease Control, as well as the US Department of Health and Human Services, they've reported that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die or be injured in childbirth than any other race in this country. And prior to my own experience, I would have never thought that walking into my doctor's office or going into a hospital and being cared for by nurses or hospital staff could put me in a situation where I feel that I'm being discriminated against because of my skin color or my hair texture or what have you. But I hate to say it, it is in fact a reality and it is happening. And that's what I'm hoping to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to hope it's going to happen because here's the thing. I think that we have heard it's all hearsay, right? Because they don't want to put it in print too much that Black people have been assumed to be able to take on more pain than any other race or community. And they use that to their advantage to give us less of this and more of that. And when you're walking into the hospital to give life, you don't expect your life to be, compromised because of it. Because, like you said, I'm going to the hospital. I'm in the right place. I have the right team. They have the right credentials. I'm just here to have a baby. But what about those that don't make it out. This has got to stop. And why are we 3 to 4 times higher or more likely to die from a pregnancy or a complication? Is it because we're not taking our prenatal vitamins? Is it because we're not being seen soon enough? What is it, say you?
You know, LaDonna, I think that stereotypically they want us to believe that the rates are what they are because of something that we're doing. Like you said, we're not taking our prenatal vitamins, or we walk in as diabetics and we eat improper food. We're overweight. We're not taking care of ourselves. We don't have access to a good hospital or a good physician due to our own insurance. And that's based on the type of job that you have or whether or not you're getting Medicare or Medicaid. And what I want to do is dispel all of those myths, because the reality of it is you have Black women out here, I'm one of them, that are highly educated, went to the best hospitals, had the most qualified doctors, and this still happened. So the question remains is, how does that occur when on paper I look identical to what a typical or average white woman would look like when she enters the hospital on paper, meaning I had a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO. I was making six figures. I was at one of the best hospitals in the country. UCLA Hospital, which is where this happened, would be the equivalent of Northwestern University Hospital in Chicago or the University of Chicago Hospital. It would be in that same caliber. And I think that we would all agree that those are some of the most well-renowned hospitals in the country. And the only thing that I can say that I feel contributed to this problem outside of negligence by the hospital, but was also the color of my skin. And the moment where that was really confirmed for me was when I had been complaining about being in unrelenting pain. It was the most severe pain that I had ever felt in my entire life. I was hollering, screaming, begging for help, pulling on people, asking for narcotics. Say, hey, what's wrong with me? What's going on? And it didn't really make sense to me. I had had a child before, and I didn't experience any of the symptoms that I was experiencing. And when I was saying this to the hospital staff, I was really being ignored. I was told that, yeah, you know what, you're fine. It was almost as if this was in my imagination. It wasn't really real. And just when I thought, okay, I'm going to get some help, I was then seen by a social worker. And this social worker comes to my bedside, and I'm looking at her thinking, well, why is she not in scrubs? She's not a doctor. I need a physician. And she tells me that she's a social worker and that she's there to evaluate my mental state.
For what?
Yeah, I'm here to evaluate your mental state. And this was after I had been given severe narcotics. And at that time, they weren't disclosing to me the narcotics that I was actually, being given. And it wasn't until I filed a lawsuit against the hospital and we started going through the flow charts that it became aware to myself and my husband that I'd been given fentanyl, Percocet, oxycodone, Oxycontin, Toradol within a 48-hour period. And then they had me breastfeeding my daughter without telling me that I was given all of these narcotics. So I'm now transferring the narcotics to my child. And then after I give you all these narcotics, because you're still complaining of pain and you're now not responsive to the pain, I'm now sending in a social worker to evaluate your mental state. And I'm going to keep it absolutely 100 with you, LaDonna. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that had I been a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I had been complaining to the degree in which I was complaining about, after receiving all of those narcotics, I would have been taken in for imaging. They would have ordered an MRI. They would have ordered labs, blood work to see what was going on. They would have checked for a blood clot. Even the things that you would see after the birth of a child, like a blood clot, that was never even investigated. No one investigated anything. I could get an exam for 6 months.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I feel like they were already preparing to fail you. They knew they did, which is why the psychiatric evaluation came in, so that they can say that you weren't of sound mind. They
Correct.
they already prepared for that.
And the sad part about LaDonna is they had my chart right in front of them. I had no history of mental health issues. I had no history of depression. I had no history of having postpartum depression. And postpartum depression does not start immediately after you give birth while you're still laying on the delivery bed. And when I say that this experience rattled my entire life, it rattled my entire life because I had truly believed that I had done everything that I was supposed to, everything that society says that you're supposed to do to avoid these types of situations. And unfortunately, I became a statistic. And I believe that I became a statistic because I am a Black woman, period.
The aftermath of your experience at UCLA had to be just devastating. Suing the hospital is one thing, but you can never get that moment back. It's like that is your story and your narrative from now on. But what changes do you hope to see in the healthcare system to prevent similar incidents from happening to other families in the future?
Sure. So we've started a nonprofit, and the name of the nonprofit is called Fighting Our Injustices for Women of Color. And our website is going to be launching at the end of next week. We also did a short documentary, which you can find on YouTube. And the name of that documentary is Black Moms at Risk: The Dark Secret of the US Health System. If you just go to YouTube, type in Black Moms at Risk, Bianca Dickerson-Williams, it'll pop up. It's only about 15 minutes long. It's highly informative. And in that documentary, I compare the hospital system to the police system and how you have these two systemic institutions that have, in many ways, in my opinion, continue to bolster systemic racism in a way in which has oppressed Black and Brown minorities for eons, for decades. And I basically break down how similar they are. And even following, let's say, for instance, a police report, that police report is drafted by a police officer. And whatever that police officer chooses to put in that police report, that's what happened.
Yep.
And the same thing applies to your medical records. Whatever that doctor or nurse choose to chart or not chart, that's the story, that's the narrative, that's what happened. And most people, I was one of them, don't actually take the time to go and collect their medical records to verify that everything that has been said or diagnosed is actually accurate or is a true depiction of what your experience was. And that's what we have to start to do. And that's why I wanted to continue to share my story, is that my hope is that I can educate people so that this doesn't happen to their daughter or their child. It is a sad, sad statistic to hear that we have the worst mortality rates outside of even third world countries. You know, they want us to believe that when you see Africa, for instance, that there are huts with flies flying around, and we see all of that, and then
Lies and garbage. Lies and garbage.
lies and garbage, right? And then we're sitting over here in the United States where, we brag about this being the land of opportunity and we have all this technology and we're the leading country on the forefront of science. But here I am. I sustained catastrophic injuries because my leg was dropped while my baby was coming out. And my daughter was literally ripping through my body. And I was under an epidural. I did not feel anything. So me not being medically trained, I didn't think anything of it. But it took me 3 years to uncover the extent of my injuries and what actually really happened to me in there, because they didn't document or record any of the complications. So I want you to let that sit with you for a second, because I'm a lawyer myself.
I was going to ask. I was going to get to that.
Yeah. And that's the other reason why I feel the need to be a voice for all of my Black and Brown sisters who have unfortunately passed away or didn't have the same means or resources that I had to tell my story. Because if you don't document what happens, guess what, LaDonna? It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, when we think about George Floyd, for instance, the reason why the entire world was out protesting with their fist in the air, which I had never seen before, was because of an iPhone. And we have cameras on phones. However, if we didn't have iPhones, guess what? All that protesting would have never happened, because that police officer would have gone to his direct reports and said he was being unruly. I couldn't control him. He was fighting. He was hitting us back, and I was doing my job. And he would have been believed. And even if he wasn't believed, they would have covered it up.
Yes. And I know you touched upon being an attorney, but at the same time, barbers don't cut their own hair because it's difficult. You're used to serving other people, representing individuals as if they were yourself. Am I saying this correctly? And now you have this situation, and you have to kind of go through the legal process of suing the hospital for medical malpractice. What advice would you give others who may find themselves in a similar situation and considering legal action? Because not everyone passed away. I mean, you are testimony, and there are many others out there, and there's some that are. I know some people that ended up scratching their head years later, saying, "Wait a minute, that wasn't right." Because a lot of times you can be so distracted by everybody running around and saving your baby and stitching you up that you don't realize that you just got hit upside the head. So, what advice would you give others who may find themselves in a similar situation that are considering legal action?
So, what I would say is this: suing a hospital is very, very hard. It's like suing a police department. They protect their own, they cover for their own. It is what they're designed to do. It's not something that you hear spoken about very often because we've been trained as Black people, I believe, to know that the police system is not for us. And that when we get pulled over by the police, you better have your hands up so that they can see, and that you better be functioning in a way that you don't even, for even a split second, come across as a threat. Hospitals are very different because we're trained to believe that that's supposed to be a safe place for us and that we're supposed to go there and get the proper care that we need. However, the reality of it is this: there are doctors that are members of, let's say, the Proud Boys or the Ku Klux Klan. And when you walk in, you don't know that. They're simply wearing a white coat and a stethoscope. There are doctors and nurses and hospital staff that have biases that they are themselves not even aware that they have. I can't tell you, LaDonna, how many times I've had someone say, well, I'm not racist.
Mhm.
I would never treat somebody differently, because of their race.
Mhm.
But it's not what you feel is racist. It's what the person on the other end that's experiencing you feels. Because does Donald Trump think that he's racist? Donald Trump doesn't think he's racist. He
Mm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
But I bet you if you ask a Black person, is Donald Trump a racist? I guarantee you everyone's going to say, yes, he is a racist. Okay. So I want you to imagine that when you walk into the hospital room, you need to walk in thinking, is my doctor or is this nurse or is this hospital staffer a Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is they're in there.
They are, and you don't know who's who simply because when you find out, especially with what happened on January 6th, which I now post Happy Insurrection Day every January 6th. When you see the people that they've obviously grabbed that were part of this whole insurrection day, they look like normal, regular people that you've seen here and there. You never know who's who. But with that being said, you also feel that same way in hospitals, police stations, and they have to wear this face or they have to pretend to be justice for all or fair health care for all. But that's not true. And I know with you going to Capitol Hill and sharing your story like big time, what changes would you like to see in the healthcare system immediately? And well, I should say short term, long term, as a result of your advocacy efforts.
What I would like to see is programs implemented in all hospitals across the United States where they're required to collect data on deaths and injuries, and that there is some sort of policy that is implemented where we can actually have an eye view as to what is actually happening in the hospital room itself. So, policy and procedure changes. So, let's say, for instance, when I went in to deliver my baby, the hospital only allowed one person in the delivery room. Well, that's a problem in of itself because guess what? I'm a married woman, so I definitely want the father of my child to be in the room. But I also, in light of what has happened to me, would like a doula or a midwife to be in the room, someone that is a neutral, that is not being paid by the hospital, that is not on the payroll of the hospital, that is an independent, that in the event that something is happening, will actually help to be an advocate for the patient. And then, hey, I might even want my mother in the room. And I recognize that a hospital wants to give you great care, and they may feel that having a certain number of people in a room can pose issues or safety issues. But at the same token, in light of the statistics that exist, there is clearly something wrong with the system. So policy and changes have to be made.
And I have a question about that. So you said that you want your husband, or let's say the husband or the baby's father is in the room. As an attorney, you know this answer. So does that not count as a witness of what took place? And do you need another person to count as a witness to what took place just because you two are together or considered one entity?
The way I would describe it is this, when you file a lawsuit against a hospital, anyone that was in the delivery room, including yourself, is considered to be a witness. So having, though, someone in there that is not being paid by the hospital, the reality of it is you're not tied to them. They don't owe you anything. You don't owe them anything. So you're more likely to get an authentic opinion as to what occurred versus if someone is on your payroll system, the odds of them confessing what did or did not happen go down significantly. And the reason is you're their livelihood. It's no different than a police officer. If a police officer observed another police officer doing something that they shouldn't be doing, the odds of that police officer going and telling and having that person reprimanded goes down significantly because they're being paid by the very entity that they're actually saying, hey, you have a problem. So, those are some of the harsh realities that we have to deal with. And part of why I've been going to Congress and meeting with members of the Biden administration to simply say, hey, we need funding. We need funding at the state level so that these programs can be implemented and so this data can be collected, because from the data, we can then go say, okay, we know what's happening. Why is this happening? And how do we educate our staff or make changes within the hospital and our regulatory system so that we can prevent this from happening and so that we can start to lower the statistics that are out there, because they are beyond alarming. How am I supposed to feel as a Black or brown woman going in to give birth to a child, whether I have a PPO or I'm on government assistance, with a rate that says when I enter the hospital, I have a 3 to 4% chance of dying or being injured versus a white woman. And I'm going to go one step further, because it has been reported, even by the Center for Disease Control, that a white woman with a GED will receive better care than a Black woman with an advanced degree. I want you to let that sink in for a second. These are not made up numbers. This is out there. This is what the data has shown us. How do we explain that? Because I'm going to tell you, LaDonna, I took my prenatal vitamins. I had no complications during my pregnancy. I was not diabetic. I did not consume alcohol. I did not consume any drugs. I walked in there a completely healthy woman with great insurance at a great hospital. How is it that my leg was dropped while my daughter was coming out and I sustained these catastrophic injuries? And during a 6-month period of going to UCLA hospital and seeing UCLA doctors every 2 weeks for 6 months, no one ever ordered an ultrasound, an MRI, lab work, blood work, or anything. I had to leave the state, LaDonna, and the UCLA network before I could even get tests and studies done to determine what was wrong with me. Now, I want you to do the math, because the last time I checked, 2 + 2 = 4.
And unless you're a woman of color, right?
Unless you're a woman of color.
And it's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I apologize. I can wait.
I think the same thing is playing out even with my lawsuit. We went to trial and my evidence was suppressed. I believe that there were errors by the court as well as by my attorney and the defense attorneys. And I feel very much like Breonna Taylor's family felt when they first went to trial. And it wasn't until we had a completely new administration come in and new attorney generals be appointed and new members in the DOJ be appointed that she then got a new trial and the evidence was actually shown and she actually received justice. When you are a Black woman in this country, your odds of getting good health care, getting justice are significantly lower than a white woman or even someone of another race. Because immediately after Black women, the next group that gets hit are Indigenous women. And if you look at the data in California, Black women in the state of California are 6 times more likely to die or be injured in childbirth, and then we're followed by Indigenous women. It's a travesty, and it looks very much like what this country was founded on, which was slavery and the genocide of Native Americans.
This is unfortunate. I just want to remind everybody, thank you for watching the LaDonna Raeh Show. I'm LaDonna Raeh, and our special guest today is Bianca Dickerson-Williams, who is fighting for us. Okay. She is an advocate for women in healthcare. She's experienced it herself. She has a law degree. She knows what she's talking about. And she's also saying, hey, forget protesting. We need programs and policy. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows about Bianca Dickerson-Williams. Make sure you find her on social media. We'll get to how you can do that at the end of this interview, but just wanted to reset so you know what you're watching, because you probably tapped in and go, they did what? So we have to kind of reset and let you know what we're actually talking about. But I'm so proud of you. I know that you don't necessarily need to be proud of you, but I am. And the fact that you're not just jumping up and down, and that was years ago. You're like, I gotta do something. In fact, I gotta do it all, and I need people to jump on board with me. And along with that, you have launched your website. This is where the audience claps, but they're trying to be quiet, right? It's called Fight Injustices for Women of Color. Am I saying that right?
It's Fighting Our Injustices for Women of Color. And yeah, we're launching at the end of next week. And we are planning to have resources available for women of color, such as how to locate a doula in your local area, what information is out there in terms of statistical data that you can be aware of before you go into the hospital, and just really providing you with the insight that I think that is needed. Think of it this way, LaDonna. I know that in the last several years that there are so many Black families that have set their Black male sons down and have said to them, okay, if you're ever in a situation where you're pulled over or where you're walking and you encounter a police officer, here's what you have to do. Some people may say, oh, well, why are you scaring your child? No, for us, this is a reality. We're getting killed by police. And I'm saying the same thing.
Killed.
I'm saying,
not killed.
Yes, killed.
Okay.
We're getting killed. Yes. And I'm saying the same thing to Black women. I'm saying, hey, everyone, you may not be thinking about it, but when you enter in that hospital, when you enter in your doctor's office, I need for you to be thinking just like George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Michael Ferguson, because the reality of it is that's where they're getting Black women. It's the same systemic problem. It is the same racism. It's just dressed up with a different skirt.
Wow. This is amazing. I think that hopefully, you talked about the resources that women can get from your website, and hopefully, if anybody feels discriminated against, or maybe a preparation resource that says, "Okay, I just found out I'm pregnant. Now what?" That's really not what we do. It's like, I don't want to put that type of energy into my pregnancy and think that maybe I have to take this on as well. But in the reality scope of it, if you're not using a doula, am I saying this right?
You
If I'm
are.
not using a doula, then I really don't have control. My doctor might be nice every week when I get to visit them. Very nice guys, laughing, cracking jokes, asking how the kids are or how I'm feeling. But when it comes time to go into that operating room, it's a different setting.
Yes. You know what I tell people? I say, think of it this way. Think of it the same way you do Santa Claus or a Catholic priest. Okay. And the reason why I'm giving those examples is because we've been trained to believe, especially as a child, that Santa Claus is safe. I'm going to go sit on Santa Claus's lap. I'm going to tell Santa Claus what I want for Christmas. And Santa Claus on December 25th is going to come down that chimney and he's going to leave those gifts for me. And we all believed it. I know I did when I was a kid. We all believed it. And why do we believe it? Because that's what we were told. If your doctor tells you, you know what, I need to run some more tests on you, I need you to come back in 2 weeks. Most people do it. Most people don't even question their doctor. So it's not even so much I want you to be afraid when you go into the hospital. I want you to start listening to your doctors and your health care providers with a different ear. This ear is called, I have to be my own advocate, and I can't always believe everything that I'm being told, because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to advocate for you is you. And if you're waiting on a hospital staff, a nurse, or a doctor to save your life, you should go ask all of the families who buried a mother or child following a complication in the delivery room or a complication with the pregnancy. I can't tell you how many women I've met since I've started this journey myself that has said to me, my daughter was born and they told me my daughter wasn't going to make it. And I told them to please try. And they said that there was nothing that they could do. And they handed me my baby, and my baby died in my arms. Or how many women that I've talked to that said, I was having all types of complications. I was bleeding, I was having cramps, and I was going in at 8 months trimester. In my third trimester, I'm 8 months pregnant. I was going in complaining. And then one day I wake up and something really horrific is happening. And I go into the hospital, and then we learn that my baby is dead. And I had to have a DNC because they had to remove the baby. There's so many things that can happen that can be prevented. And very often what you will hear with the statistical data is these were preventable problems. These are preventable complications. LaDonna, I didn't even have stirrups on my bed. So part of the reason why my leg fell is the bed wasn't even properly suited to accommodate the pregnancy.
Oh, come on. That's simple math.
So again, it's all, think of it this way, when you walk in to a job interview, or when you walk in to a hospital, the first thing they see is your skin tone and how you look and what you are. And the reality of it is, and I'm sorry I'm having to deliver such hard reality, the reality of it is you are being perceived and judged based on your outward and external appearance, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. I'm telling you, it's happening.
I'm going to share something with you. I had my children at a very young age. I was 3. I'm joking. I was 16 when I had my first son. And then I was 18 when I had my second son. Stop. I only got 2 hands. I'm only having 2 children. Let's not keep doing this, LaDonna, is what I had to tell myself. But years later, I got married. Now, I have experience being a single mother and a married mother. It is totally different. So when I got married, I couldn't wait to get pregnant because I wanted to experience having a husband. I mean, having a baby. I was going to say having a husband with my baby.
No, I get
having a baby with my husband. I wanted to experience that. And you're right. They judge you because when I went in as that young Black teenager that was pregnant, I was simply treated as if I were in a clinic versus a doctor's office. When I had a child with that big rock on my finger, even though I was Black, and I said, my husband, the tone changed a little, but not much based on which hospital I was in. I had on the South Side.
There have been so many celebrities that have come out and said Serena Williams is one of them. I was being treated one way, but once my white husband showed up, the environment changed around me. Yeah. I have friends that have white husbands, and they have all said the same thing. When it was just me in there and they saw me as a Black woman, I was having one experience. When my white husband walked in, I was having a completely different experience. We don't want to acknowledge that this is happening, but it is. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. And we have to come to terms with the fact that the one place that we've been trained to think is safe, we actually have to proceed with caution, no differently than we do when we get on the freeway to drive somewhere. You put on a seatbelt, you make sure everyone is securely buckled and fastened in. It's like when you get ready to take off on the plane, what do? They go over all the safety procedures, you put on your seatbelt. The same thing applies when you go to a hospital. I'm not trying to scare Black women. I am trying to have you thinking when you go in, don't expect everything to go smoothly. Expect that you will be judged based on the color of your skin, based on the type of insurance that you have, and be prepared. Because I was not prepared, LaDonna, for what I experienced. Okay, there is nothing that would have ever prepared me for that, because according to society, I had done everything that you were supposed to do, LaDonna. I had gone to college, I got a degree. I went back to school, I got another degree, I got a law degree. I was married, I had great insurance, I had a good job. I had all of the bells and whistles that they say that you're supposed to have to prevent this from happening. And the one thing that I did not have was white skin.
Okay, I got a solution for that. Okay, I said this back in what, 2016? No, 2020. Um, Stop filling out the application or the questionnaire when you go to the doctor and being honest about your color. Pick one. Okay. Pick Caucasian. Okay. Put your BPO down there, Blue Cross Blue Shield, baby. When you walk in, you say, "Hi, I am," and whatever your name is, and hopefully it's not Shaniqua. Okay. And when they look up, they're gonna look twice. Are you are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. There is no law that says I have to say I'm black. Okay, I'm just saying. So we have gone through everything that you've gone through, your preparation, getting back at the, or not getting back, taking on the hospital, the medical industry, if you will, because this is in writing. Okay. They can't deny this at all. This has been going on with us since we got here. Okay. We were lab rats, we were monkeys, we were so many things. And I think that it is time for me to ask you the $1,000,000 question. Watch this. How do you believe we can get involved in pushing policy, programs, and particularly for women of color, how can we get involved in pushing this to happen and change now?
I'm so glad that you asked that question, because my hope and what I'd like for everyone to do if they're listening or watching is to first find out who your local alderman is, who your local congressional leader is, whether that's a congresswoman or a congressman. But all of us, based on zip code where you live, have a dedicated alderman and a dedicated member of Congress. That's where you start. You go to your alderman, you go to your congressional leader, and you say, hey, this is what's going on in my community, or hey, this is what I've experienced. Because they then take that information, and when they're making policy and legislation, or when they're voting on specific laws, they can then say, this is what my community is looking for. This is what my particular community needs. Here's what's happening in my particular community. Because that's where it starts. You have to find out from a grassroots perspective who within your local community is actually advocating for you. I would then also recommend that you find local nonprofits within your zip code, because they're out there. There are tons of them. If you just do a simple Google search for Black maternal health resources with your zip code, it will start to pop up. That way, you can begin to see what other resources are available to you in terms of free doulas. There are doulas and midwives out there that will come to you for free. For free.
I gotta feed them though, right?
For free.
They got
For free, because they're invested in the cause. They're invested in saving lives. And those are the types of things that we need, even all the way down to work with me here, LaDonna. There are organizations out there that will give you baskets of diapers, a car seat, tools and things that you may need. For instance, like you said, you were a mother at 16 years old. Okay. The reality of it is, yes, we have Black women that are giving birth at 16, 17, 18 years old who don't necessarily have basic resources at home. There are tools and resources out there for them with their local nonprofits. All you do is simply Google Black maternal health along with your zip code, and that information will start to pop up for you. But that's the beginning of simple things that you can do. And I would also highly recommend this. I would highly recommend that you get a Black physician. And the reason is, statistically, the data has shown that when a Black person has a Black doctor, that they actually have a longer life expectancy.
I gotta jump in. I gotta jump in because I think that we are riddled with ridicule when it comes to getting a Black anything or anyone. I think I really need people to hear this. Okay, Bianca Dickerson-Williams said, "Get a Black physician," but how many times have we heard somebody say, "I don't want a Black Santa Claus. I don't want a Black physician." I'm so tired of it. I don't want a Black electrician. It's not, this is not the time for that. Okay. This is not the time.
This is a matter of life and death. These are life and death situations. I almost died. And I can guarantee if there's anything that I would guarantee you right now, because my current OBGYN is a Black woman. And I think the reason is, and get ready for it. I want you to catch this, LaDonna. Okay. A Black woman, her life is valued less in our society. It is a Black woman's life is valued less. So the only person, in my opinion, when push comes to shove and we're really in a critical moment, that is going to value your life the same way you do is another Black woman or another Black person. That is what I truly do believe. Now, let me just add a little context around this. This is not to say that a white physician won't give you great care. This is not to say that a white physician can't give you the same level of care as a Black physician. That's not what we're trying to say here. What we're trying to say here is that if you are operating with any sort of pre-existing conditions or any concerns already about a particular pregnancy, to ease your own mind and to feel that your baby and your life is going to be valued, I highly recommend that you do find a Black physician, because prior to what happened to me, all of my physicians were white, every single last one of them. And I've learned, unfortunately, a very hard lesson. And that is that sometimes we seem to think that if we go to a certain zip code or to a certain hospital or to a certain physician, that we will have a better outcome. But the reality of it is that's not always the case. I have a close family member, and I will never forget the conversation that I had with her. She was in federal custody when she gave birth. And she said to me, I was handcuffed. I was handcuffed to a bed while I was giving birth to my child. And I was in federal custody. And I had a better outcome, Bianca, than you did. In federal custody, handcuffed to a bed.
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what I want people to recognize. This is not to say that a particular race is going to treat me better than a particular race. This is the same thing, if you will, catch this, LaDonna, how we came up with historically Black colleges and universities. We were not allowed to go to school. We were not allowed to pursue a higher education. So somebody said, well, you know what? How about we start our own higher education so that we can begin to educate ourselves, because no one thinks that we're smart enough to become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. And if we have our own schools, we remove that layer of oppression. And that's simply what I'm saying. There are physicians that are currently employed that have implicit biases, or some that are just blatantly racist. They just haven't told you yet. Behind your back, they're saying things that you are not privy to. And I am simply saying, as a precautionary method, look into having a Black physician. It can, and the data does show that it does make a difference, and that we actually have a longer life expectancy when we are with a physician that looks like us. And this is not just for Black people. This is for Hispanics. This is for Native Americans. This is for Asians. This is for people of color. And it's simply, they value your life in a different way, because when they see you, they see themselves. That's all we're saying here. But yeah, I mean,
I almost thought you were saying that the Asians should get a Black doctor, but I get it now.
Yeah, no, it's race to race.
Yeah.
It's race. If you're an Asian, hey, you know what? I think that you might receive better treatment if you have another Asian doctor. It eliminates a lot of different biases and cultural barriers that we all experience when we're not dealing with someone from the same culture as us.
Yeah. And
And
oh, sorry.
it's a harsh reality, unfortunately.
It is. It's definitely a harsh reality. And, I am not in, like, I don't do what I do to promote any type of racial divide, but I'm a firm believer that charity starts at home, right? So we have to work inward, outward. We got to get I wish I had a bleep button. I can't find it because I got involved. We have to get our stuff together. We have to get our stuff together and tighten up so that we can increase our birth rate or our mortality or even our income, or find out more about everything that has been stacked against us first. And then we can branch out. With you being a special guest speaker at the Maternal Health Workshop, congratulations. It's the workshops and conferences, including the AAMC conference. What do you hope to achieve in raising awareness about the critical issues that are surrounding maternal health, particularly for us?
I'm looking forward to that workshop. It's an incubator, and I believe right now we have roughly 1,000 attendees from various organizations and communities, physicians, healthcare practitioners, researchers, data scientists, professors of African American studies at different academic institutions, real life stories like mine. And we're all coming together because we recognize that there is a problem happening specifically within the United States, and that our data does not reflect the type of resources and technology that this country has. We should not have worse data than a third world country, but we do. And what I've often said is God designed a woman to give birth without all the hospital bells and whistles. That's what he designed us to do. We have the anatomy there to allow us to give birth in a healthy fashion. And what my hope is for this workshop is that I get healthcare practitioners and doctors who don't believe that they have biases to actually hear from a peer, because I consider myself to be a peer to a physician. I have a JD, they have an MD. I'm your peer. And I'm telling you my lived experience with a medically trained physician, and I am expressing to a medically trained physician or a healthcare provider, I am in severe excruciating pain, and you don't believe me. Well, why don't you believe me? Well, many of them will say, well, you weren't demonstrating certain symptoms, or I didn't see certain signs at the time. But if a woman is coming to you and saying, hey, I'm in severe pain, what's wrong with simply believing her that she's actually in the pain that she's saying that she is? Because we know our bodies better than anybody else. We live and breathe in them every single day. So if I come to you and I say, hey, I'm experiencing something I've never experienced before. This is my second child. Something is wrong. What prevented you, or what might prevent you from ordering additional tests? Because that's what happened in my case. I couldn't get anyone to order any tests for me to determine what was wrong. So the stereotype, LaDonna, is very often when Black women say that they're in pain, we are not believed, or we are perceived as being able to tolerate more pain than another racial group. All of that stems from slavery. And it's just been carried over from one generation to a next to a next. Even the way we're depicted in the media. What do you typically see in the movies of a Black woman? She's a single mother. She has 3 or 4 kids. She's doing it all. She has 3 or 4 jobs. She's trying to go to school. She got knocked upside of the head when she was trying to catch the bus because she was late for her 3rd job. That's what we see, right? So we have created this image that the Black woman is Superwoman. She can do all things, but then let's also throw in the fact that she's angry. She's angry. The Black woman is an angry woman now. These are all the stereotypes and the media depictions that have been created that have caused all of this to penetrate the medical system. Because when we walk in, one minute we're an angry woman, then the next minute we have, the strength of, a superhero. So we're not believed that we're in pain. That's a big part of it. I say, hey, something's wrong. I'm feeling a certain way. Oh, well, what are you doing to contribute to this problem, Shaniqua? Are you taking your prenatal vitamins? I can see that your BMI index is slightly over. You're 30 pounds overweight. You have to lose some weight. The reason why you're having heart palpitations is because you're overweight and you're a diabetic. And then she goes home, and then within 24 hours, she has had a heart attack because of something else.
Yeah. It's important to note that and I just want to say this, it's important to note that not all doctors and medical professionals share this same sentiment. But what we're saying is, do your best diligence in getting the right healthcare provider for yourself. I mean, what has happened, yes. And if you have gone through these disparities, or if you've gone through these situations that were unfair to you in your birthing process, surgery process, or surgical process, medical process, or whatever, make sure you seek the right counsel so that you too can do what's right for you. So I have to say that. But studies have shown, unfortunately, that there are significant disparities in pain management for Black women in particular compared to other groups. And some healthcare providers may have I don't know, have a clinical decision to make in saying that we can handle more. Guess what? The reason why we deal with the pain that we deal with is because we have to.
There you go.
Yeah. We're not asking for it. Okay. I'm not going around hitting myself upside the head saying my head hurts. I am enduring what I'm enduring because of my socioeconomical makeup. Okay. It's all related. Anyhow, I really want to thank you for being on the LaDonna Raeh Show, and I hope everyone else can give you a definite clap. Oh, there they are. That's for you, Bianca. And I want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a thank you. I said thank you.
Of course. And I want you to make sure that you learn more about Bianca's experience in her documentary film. It's on YouTube. Okay. I'm going to drop the link in the social media stuff. But if you search for Bianca Dickerson-Williams documentary, you will find it. Now, the link is kind of long, so I'm not going to go XYZ. I'm not doing all of that. But you can go to Instagram. I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder. Can I give them your Instagram?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you can go to Instagram and look for Flores Dickerson. Okay. Flores Dickerson on Instagram. That's Flores Dickerson. Am I pronouncing it right?
You are, yes.
Okay. And then LinkedIn, that's where all the business deals are made. Like on the golf course, you can search for Bianca Dickerson-Williams. And there's going to be a couple of them, possibly, maybe. I don't know with all three of those names, but I'll put the link because it's a little long as well. Bianca, what do you want to what are your parting words? I think we should definitely hear what you have to say, because I know you're going to make things happen, but I know you're not going to make things happen on your own, because everybody listening is going to share this and they're going to get involved. They're not going to say, I'm done fighting. They're not going to say, this is not my type of fight. They're going to jump on board and say, what can I do to help?
Sure. So I would say in closing that this is a human rights issue. This is a civil rights issue. I would put this in the same category as sex trafficking or reproductive rights, such as Roe v. Wade. What I would simply say is that we need to galvanize and come together to recognize that this is actually a real issue that is happening in our society. And that even when we feel that we've done everything that we can do to avoid something like this, it can still happen to you. It happened to me. And I don't want people to walk into situations blindly. I want people to walk into situations fully informed. And then from there, they can make the decision that is best for themselves and for their family. Because someone else very well could have an amazing experience with a Caucasian doctor. And I do still have Caucasian doctors that treat me very well. So it's not to say that this is the end all be all for every situation, every person, and every doctor. I'm simply here to provide you with my experience in hopes that you can learn something from it and potentially save the life of someone else that you're personally or intimately acquainted with.
Well said. Well said. I am so honored to have you on the show. This was so amazing because being informative, sometimes we talk to celebrities and we talk to content creators from all over the world, and then we talk to those activists. That's so important because it's all related. And I am so grateful that you chose our platform to share your story, to give education about your story and how people can avoid or respond to this, and what we can expect, to keep watching and stay informed with what you're trying to do, or should I say what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, LaDonna, for having me. I really appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. All right, guys, as promised, I'm putting her chat stuff in the mix. You should be able to get to it in a second. It's coming. All right. We'll see you next time. Bianca, you're welcome to chill with us on any given day. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Because we have those content creators from all over the world that say to us, hey, I got something to say to all of you out there around the way, Miss Rae. But Bianca Dickerson-Williams said it best. She said, don't get played, okay? In my words, I know. Don't get played, baby. Because when it comes to feeling like you're in a safe space and you're really not in a safe space, nah, we're not falling for it no more. We're not. But I want you guys to make sure that you tune in to the LaDonna Raeh Show each and every time that it's available. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and look for LaDonna Raeh Show on the YouTube channel. And that way you will be notified every time there is a new episode available. We have several playlists. We have the Happily Divorced. Nobody's happy to be divorced. In fact, I'm starting to not like the word divorced because it sounds like I just couldn't keep my stuff together, okay? But let's just say I went to wife school and I learned a few things. We also have the LaDonna Raeh Show, and then we're going to get back to toasting while tipping, y'all. Boss lady has been on a roll. She's been blowing up. So I'm going to reach out to her one more time and see if she has time for little old me. And some new shows are coming your way. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow. But for now, I just want to say, see you next time on the LaDonna Raeh Show with me, LaDonna Raeh. Bye-bye for now. Peace!